Today is Sunday the 10th of November 2019. I'm Keith Bohr, and welcome to another episode of Homeless in Titusville. If you guys have noticed here recently, usually I put a video out every week, but it's been over 4 years using the same cameras, the same microphones, and they're just wearing out. They're getting older, and I only make maybe, say, $2.25 per 1,000 views on YouTube. So it's not as lucrative as some make it out to be in the media and whatnot.
But
it just
really
isn't.
quick though is you're not really actually doing this, and you started doing this because of the financial rewards, obviously.
Right. No. Yeah. Right. Right.
You know,
right. I got
you
paid.
become a millionaire off doing
Right. And I got paid zero for the first 3 years of doing this, and right now I'm literally making gas money, like around $120 a month.
And your intention when you started doing this was just to really shed light, right? On
yeah, absolutely. Of all the people you see around town here, something's got to change. So if you guys like what I'm doing, you guys want to support what I'm doing, you think what I'm doing is important, you like watching these videos, I need your support. I really do. I have a donate now button on my YouTube channel. I'm the one that put it there. Sometimes people ask me, what is that account? And I'm like, well, I have full control of, Rachel.thecutter is my spouse. That's how it's set up through PayPal. But anyway, so I got these headphones in so that I can listen to the mic simultaneously to make sure that it's recording the audio, because either the mic was failing, the camera was failing, or both in the past here, and I've had to redo videos. Matter of fact, this one right here is a redo. We had another person that was going to be with us, but she was not able to make this video. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't like to be one of those people that is constantly, making it about money, asking for money, all those types of things. But, and right now I only have maybe three people that support me with maybe less than $40 a month. I mean, we're talking very small. The one lady is like $10 a month. Another one's like I think they're all like $10 a month. So that helps as far as buying a sandwich or a little bit of gas money or something like that. But that in no way will get me the camera equipment that I need to continue this.
I know some people personally being out here that because of your videos has helped their situation and really have change the course of their lives. So it is important, guys. You got to understand that this is not us trying to get rich or anybody trying to get rich. This is trying to make an impact on what's happening in our society.
Right. If you think what I'm doing is important.
Yeah. This is not, hey, we're on YouTube, we're making
right. We're trying to go to
dollars.
Right.
And,
trying to go to take a trip to Europe or something like that.
No,
it's not
by any means, it's the opposite. Actually, really, it's a struggle to continue these things going on. And I understand it from my perspective, and I see what you're doing, and it's definitely beneficial. It has helped. I mean, it creates the controversy that's needed to open up the discussion of what we got to do to change this situation.
Right, absolutely. So, and if you guys haven't guessed, Demian San Martin here is my guest for today. Demian's been on before, and Demian, while living on the streets, being homeless himself, is trying to change things for himself and for others, not just, being selfish, doing it for himself. He's actually trying to make a bigger impact, a lasting footprint, if you will. So, how long has it been now that you've been homeless on the streets here in Titusville?
Well, I think it's going back since August. I mean, I was prior in March when I first met you. I'm
asking about how long have you been in Titusville, here living homeless in Titusville?
Well, I was homeless here, then I left.
Okay.
Because I wasn't homeless. I was actually working, and I had a place to live, but the employer didn't pay me, so I became homeless again. Person experiencing homelessness now. August, I believe.
Okay.
August.
And speaking of jobs, I mean, that's how easy it is to get off the streets, right? Let me see if I have this quote right. Get a job, you bum. Does that sound familiar?
It sounds familiar.
Okay.
It sounds very familiar, yeah.
So let's talk about some of the realities of that, right? Right, because it sounds so easy to the person sitting at home on their couch or in their bed watching this video right now.
Okay.
Well, I work, we'll just get a job. So explain what are some of the extra challenges that are added into this that make it so hard to get a job, you bum?
Awesome. All right, so one of the major things when it comes to trying to get employment while you're on the streets is you go to work for somebody, and let's say you're getting paid $10 an hour. Well, let's back up.
Yeah, let's back up. How do you get the job in the first place if you're homeless and you don't have any money? How do you have a cell phone?
Right. One of the first major things. Well,
how do you have a mailing address?
Well,
how do you have an email?
Well, emails are free.
I know, but the thing is, you have to have Wi-Fi, you have to have a phone. That's how employers are taking applications now, is digitally. So explain that. I mean, we're talking about literally from the ground up. People think it's so easy from their living rooms with the phone book or the internet or whatever.
Right, once you have the roof over your head.
Yeah, right, because they can write a note, stick it on the refrigerator, check it in a couple days. You don't have that luxury.
So if you're, flat out on the streets with zero or nothing, one of the major challenges, and one of the biggest challenges, realistically, is just your sleeping situation, Yeah, you can, go get a job, right. You go get a job. Let's say you're on the streets for a couple days. You're trying to figure out, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to go look for a job. Now, you have your personal stuff with you. What do you do with that personal stuff to go look for a job? I mean, who's going to walk into any interview with their bag full of stuff? With their life,
all their belongings.
Your house, the house.
Right, your house.
The people that sit on the couch and sit there and say, just go get a job. Well, when you look around you, you have all this stuff around you that you have in a secure place. Now, when you're on the streets, obviously you don't have all that stuff. You carry a bag with just your bare necessities.
Right.
But what do you do with that?
Right, and how do you make sure that it's still there when you come back?
Right,
after working that 8 hours.
Log it with you. So then you go, you do your job interviews, and you wait for a call back. That's if you have a phone, because a lot of us out here that are experiencing homelessness do have phones.
Right.
Some have government phones. I'm not going to sit there and say,
We're not going to get into the politics of that. But if you don't have that, then you're constantly looking for Wi-Fi, right? Because if you don't have Wi-Fi, the phone doesn't work. It's just a brick.
It really is. And I've been through that situation where, I've hooked up with an employer and I get the app, the Text Me app, because I don't have the phone service on at the moment. So I constantly got to find a place that has Wi-Fi to try to keep the communication between me and that employer.
Let's go even further into this cell phone issue. How do you keep it charged? Seriously, where do you charge it? You have to go to a park that specifically has electricity, right? Because if that park doesn't have electricity,
or a library, you really can't go to too many restaurants or places like that.
Right, you sit there for 4 hours. Right. Because most people put it on the charger and then they go to bed and then the next morning they go to work and it's charged for the day. You don't have that luxury.
Now imagine if you have to keep it charged all the time. Yeah, so.
And you got to sit there and babysit it the whole time it's being charged.
Right, you do. You have to watch your phone, and it presents. There's a lot of challenges that come with that. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Right, it's not impossible, but for those who are sitting at home making judgments thinking, it's just easy, he's just being lazy, he's not getting a job, he's not working. Yeah. They have no clue.
None whatsoever.
And I think I was one of those people that I was in that camp. I was just this lazy bum, and I used to lock my doors when I would, roll up to a stoplight, and there'd be a homeless guy with a sign there,
And then once I started doing this, and here's the reality of the situation. I used to be one of those people as well. I wasn't always like this.
Right.
I've lived a very good life. I had my difficulties, but I always had a roof, and we were successful. And a series of unfortunate events caused me to come into this position. And I used to really, I hate to say it, but I used to be like some of these people now that would be like, just get a job and fix it, and not really think through what it takes, and
how much extra work it is.
It's extra
work. You could
be
anything but lazy to be homeless and have a job on the street.
It is beyond extra. I mean, we're talking about mentally, physically, emotionally draining. What happens just being out on the streets.
And then you go in and you work a day and you're dirty. Most people like to go home, they take a shower, they throw their clothes in the wash, they go upstairs, whatever, they sit in front of the TV with the remote control, eating a bag of popcorn, watching the latest whatever. You've got the same dirty clothes, and now you got to find somewhere to bird bath. Am I right?
Right.
I mean, because if I'm getting any of this wrong, correct me.
Right. No,
but you got a bird bath, and you got these dirty clothes that you have to make a decision. Like, if I've worn them 50 times before they've been washed, am I better off throwing them in the garbage? Should I just buy new ones?
Right.
Like, at what point, you're making all these decisions. Like,
well,
most
what I
people don't have
love,
to do this.
what I love is when, you know, being that I'm doing what I'm doing, I get a lot of, oh, well, you could just go work at McDonald's. You know, my question is, you know, people that are getting their food. Right. Like if I order my food from McDonald's, do I want somebody that hasn't bathed and is wearing dirty clothes for the last 3 days
to make your sandwich?
To make my sandwich for the whole whopping $9 an hour, that's going to get them off the streets. I mean,
$9 isn't going to get you off the street.
I know, I'm saying.
But yeah, right.
That's a sarcastic. It's not realistic. I mean, we have to be real about the situation, and you know, it's just mind-boggling how
narrow-minded and how foolish some people can be. They just remain ignorant, and they make all these judgments about how it's so easy. Or, you know, like you've told me, you had a comment where somebody said, well, I've had tough times, I've had to go live with my parents. Oh, well, poor baby.
Wait, it wasn't even that, you know. So I put a posting out, you know, of showing how difficult it is. You know, I went and worked a job where we were replacing kind of like columns to sit there and support the second story for a house. It's an LBL beam and all that. And you go and you work and you're sweaty and you got to carry your bag and all that. And I put a posting out, not for myself, but just showing, like, you know, now imagine you go through this all day and, you know, you're struggling and, you know, you can't take a shower, you can't do any of this stuff. And I had this lady reach out and say, well, I've been through hard times, and it's just, you know, you have to work harder and et cetera and et cetera. And then I asked, and then she sat there and said that, well, you know, I've been through these hard times and I know what it's like. And I said, so tell me your story. She's like, well, I lost everything and I moved in with my parents.
That's not losing everything.
I'm like, well, there you go. Housing first. You know, that's what got you back on track, because you had a roof over your head. Now, if you didn't have your parents and you were out on your streets, it would have just been worse. It would have just continued on. I mean, it's not that simple. It's not simple. No. Housing first it's priority. I mean, you need a roof over your head.
Regardless of what your issue is, whether it's a job, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's, you know, you're in criminal trouble, whatever the thing is, you cannot even begin to, like, it's 10 times harder to get anywhere. And then let's talk about so you're on the street and people say, well, you know, you just need to work hard and you need to save your money and all that kind of stuff, but they don't take into consideration like all these expenses we talked about, like with the phone and with the clothes and stuff like that, and now on top of that you pay probably triple or quadruple what everyone else pays for food, because you don't have a refrigerator, you can't store you know, you can't go into the store and buy one get one freeze because you don't have a refrigerator to store this.
Being homeless is not cheap.
No, it's not.
It's not cheap. If you're trying to push through and you're trying to get really from the bottom up, which, you know, I can see why a lot of people just, when they get into this situation, they just fall off, because from the bottom up, you know, it costs money to eat every day. It costs money for transportation. It costs. It's more expensive.
It's expensive to be poor, because when you don't have the money to pay something on time, then they charge you late fees and all these other things, you know, that compound. So I know there are people who watch these videos who are in those positions. They're not homeless, but, you know, they are the working poor and they're just barely holding on. But it's expensive to be poor, because, like I said, you have to pay all these fees, these extra fees that people with money don't have to pay.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying they don't have to pay. Everybody goes out to eat, you know, especially when you're working.
No, what I'm saying is their bills are constantly late, and so the companies, the electric company, whoever it is, they tack on a late fee. Right. Always a late fee, late fee. You know, and your late fee, you have the biggest late fee of all, because you're out here on the streets. Like I said, with making a decision whether you're going to throw the clothes away, whether they can be salvaged and washed, or, you know, and then I can imagine it's got to be hard to walk into a store, your clothes are tattered, you're wearing literally rags to buy more, and it's embarrassing.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah, and which I just had to do a couple days ago. You know, I'm working a very labor-intensive job, and I'm out here, and I couldn't get to a wash to wash them, you know, by the time I get here, and it's, you know, it's late and it's dark, and really didn't have the money to do it. That was the truth. You know, it's not like you just throw them in the washer and all that, and then Finally, I got a little bit of money, but I had to reinvest that money into getting new work clothes because you can't keep wearing the same,
right,
it just
dirty, dingy clothes. So,
right. Well, and it actually causes it causes issues if you can't, change your clothes, if you can't keep your hygiene up. Physical issues start happening.
Right. You get sores on your body and
all over the place.
And I know you should keep your hair short so you don't have lice to worry about and things like that. But so we've talked about some of those things with the phone and the clothes and all this stuff. Now let's talk about one more thing that compounds your problem. You were talking about sleeping is now law enforcement. Not that law enforcement is doing it to be mean or whatever, but there are all these ordinances or laws on the books and all stuff about keeping people out of parks, and then a gas station or whatever doesn't want you sleeping there because that's a business. People don't realize when you look at a map of a city, there is nowhere, I guarantee nowhere in the United States of America that you can take a map of any city and go, right there is where homeless people are allowed to exist. No, every single parcel of land in a city, the city looks at as tax revenue. And so all of it, so the only place you can legally exist is in the street, but there again, now that's only for traveling. Then you can exist on the sidewalk, but that's for traveling. I gotta make this point about the sidewalk. Have you ever wondered, like when you would see old movies about with people that are on strike and they would be walking in a circle, and you say to yourself, why not just get a chair and sit down and strike in front of your business?
Yeah, right.
Because the sidewalk, you have to keep moving. The law is you have to keep moving. So unless you can sleep and walk, well, if you can sleepwalk, then I guess you're in good shape as a person experiencing homelessness. But those are the realities. So you're constantly sneaking around.
Yeah, I mean,
hiding.
For the
when
most
the parks
part,
aren't open.
For the most part, yeah, you're hiding. There are some cities and some states that do designate areas and are opening up areas, and that's one of the important things that
California has a couple of parking lots, but I think they're the only other state.
There's California, Seattle, I mean...
that are homeless friendly.
Yeah, I wouldn't say homeless friendly, but I wouldn't say addressing the situation, but like Los Angeles, for example, I mean, you got Skid Row. There's nothing they can do. There's so many people that are falling into this condition for various reasons. It's not just because...
all the movie makers, all the people the movie stars, the multi-millionaires, like it's such a a double-edged sword. You got, on the one hand, you got the people that are living in abject poverty, and then you got the other ones living in these swanky Beverly Hills. Do you know, they're so extremes. Those are big extremes there, and they've got tens of thousands of people on the street.
And just like any other place, though, I'm sure they have their own challenges of how to deal with it. If we're talking about here in Titusville and Brevard County as a whole, it's not that huge of a problem that it can't be resolved, that we can't actually put systems in place to fix it. I mean, we're talking Los Angeles, thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are actually going through this situation. But here locally in Titusville, we've got a couple hundred, just in Titusville.
Oh, I would say we've got probably 1,000. I would bet there's
I'm just saying in Titusville.
I think there's about 1,000 people that are experiencing homelessness in Titusville.
Probably. I mean,
between the hotels, couch surfing, and the woods, and because there are a lot of people you don't see that are in the woods. Listen, it was laughable 2 years ago when there was a guy running for city council seat here, and he said, I'd like you to endorse me and all this stuff. There's got to be, 10, 12 homeless in all of Titusville. We can help these people. I said, dude, you're such a clown that, after he made that comment, I walked away.
Right.
I'm not going to say who he is, but this problem is huge.
I'm out here, but, as you know, I don't get too much involved in everything as far as what's spread out because I'm in the mess right now and I'm still trying to survive as myself.
Deal with your own problems.
I see what's going on. I know people that are out here. Unfortunately, some of them have passed away.
Right, like Gomez.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Gomez, and he's somebody that could have been helped if we had systems in place to help. And there's a lot of other people that I see in vehicles. Unfortunately, because I'm beginning to become more of an advocate and being out there, I kind of just steer away from what's really going on because of people's prejudgment. And that's what kind of really is beginning to upset me because I want to be more involved. But people are prejudging, I guess, kind of like how you're saying, like
that's
how
where
they
the word
judge you.
prejudice comes from. Yeah, people judge me.
Like judging you because of what you're doing, because they think there's ulterior motives.
Right, and they also think I have a camera crew and I'm making all this money, and why don't you pay these people for their interviews? And I can't believe, like, I'm like, really, people? Like, if I'm not making any money, how am I going to pay anybody? Well, like, where would it come from?
Right.
I just don't get it. And if that's the case, like, then should I quit doing it altogether? Should we not know the realities? Like, I think what I'm doing, it's not for everyone. Certainly, if you don't like it, don't watch it. If you have a nasty comment, keep it to yourself. Turn it off. Don't watch it again. If this is, something that bothers you, that you've experienced or came close to experiencing, or you see things around here, and, even if you're neutral about it, watch, just... make up your own mind. Take a little time. Don't be ignorant. Don't make a snap judgment.
No, don't make a snap judgment. I mean, I'm all for people being open and asking questions and, trying to understand.
And I want to say this too. I invite anybody, if you live here in the local Titusville area and you want to see what it is that I do, I welcome you. You can come with me. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And you would meet with people too, right?
Yeah, why not? Why not? If you really want to know, like, why not come and see what it's like and interact with the people, get involved. Listen, I'm not trying to sit there and say everyone that's experiencing homelessness is not,
Right, there are people that out here that are, let's say, a little dangerous, mental illness, alcoholics, violent. But that's not everyone. That's maybe 2 to 5% of the population.
100%. And there needs to be systems in place for them, because at the end of the day, they're human beings. We need to figure something out for them, and then we need to get a grasp on all this. You can't just prejudge everybody based on a stereotypical view. I mean, it's not like that at all.
Right, no.
I mean, it's really not
and
like that
the
at
other
all.
thing too is I'll hear people sometimes, they'll say to me, well, that guy doesn't look homeless. Like, do they act like they issue a uniform, right? Like it's Hollywood, and they go, okay, we're gonna have to issue the gloves with the fingers cut out and a trench coat and a grocery cart. Okay, so that's the uniform of the day if you're homeless.
Right.
That's not how it works. That's not. People pass people that are homeless all the time. They don't even realize. Like, I'm going to school at Eastern Florida, and there was a guy in my French class. He's homeless.
You know what I did? I saw that. Yeah, no, who would know, right? Right. And he's going, and that's exactly why we need to start doing something. This is. How are we going to keep sitting back and not doing anything? Because the problem is so much bigger than just, what's happening as far as what people say, the addictions and all this. I mean, we have things called like the Sadowski Fund. If all you guys that sit there and, want to yell, check out what's going on.
All the know-it-alls.
Yeah, check out what's going on with the Sadowski Fund, which is, funding that's supposed to be to help low-income housing and people that are on the streets. But the politicians up in Tallahassee, are skimming from that money. They took $2 billion. $2 billion off that fund, that's supposed to go into services that are helping. Cost of living is going way up. Wages are not budging.
No,
I mean, let's be real about it, and let's stop pointing the fingers, because I'm not saying it could happen to you, but it can happen to you.
Oh, absolutely. Here's the other thing too I've noticed, and I want everyone at home to think about this, right? Let's say you have a stranger steals some jewelry from you, right? Well, it's very easy to pick up the phone, call the cops, all that stuff. Now, let's say it's your son, your daughter, your cousin, your nephew, your best friend stole from you. Now you're like, oh my God. It's the same thing with people that are experiencing homelessness. When it's that guy over there, it's like, I care, but if it was your mother or you'd be like, why isn't somebody doing something?
100%. 100%.
And because there is not this personal connection with somebody, therefore somebody can be a little more, uncaring, I guess you could say, about the situation.
Right. And that's the whole thing. It shouldn't have to be a personal connection. I used to have my prejudgments on what the situation was before I got into the situation. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm in the situation, I see what it is and how it's really impacting our society. It really changed my views.
Right, and the top 1% owning everything. So you've talked. Well, I want to talk about this other thing. You're talking about leaving something past. When you get out of this, you're talking about tiny homes and stuff. And this, you got this Project Reform or something. Like, what's that all about?
So Project Reform is an initiative that's it's beginning to take place here in Titusville to create a housing first solution for people that are experiencing homelessness. It's kind of to fill the gap between being on the streets until getting into permanent housing through like the coalition and service providers, through what it doesn't necessarily have to be tiny homes, but I don't see another option right now.
Right, I don't either.
You know, it's not like, you know, there's millions of dollars to build a complex where we could just house everybody. But tiny homes is something it's very low cost, it's very low maintained, and we can get people off the streets. And I'm not saying it's the permanent solution, but it's the gap from being on the streets until the services can get them into where they have to go, you know, which would be hooked up with the Brevard Coalition for the Homeless. You know, they're the ones that actually get the funding from the state and the government, federal and state funding, because Brevard County has zero funding for this. All of Brevard County has zero funding. They had a little bit of funding for like a service provider called Family Promise, that they went from like $28,000 annually down to like $3,000. I mean, and
can't do anything with that.
Right. It's just dwindling. So something has to come into place where you can grab people and you can put them in a place not as a handout but as a hands up.
Right.
You know, like,
right, and you've actually looked into, and you know, because land is so expensive, you've actually bought some barrels and have taken some action to make yours floating tiny homes.
Well, yeah, what I'm doing as far as a
because that could really cut some costs, having it be a floating tiny home.
Well, the floating tiny home that I'm building is more. I'm not suggesting floating tiny homes.
Right, for everyone. That's for you and your situation.
Right, I'm building a floating tiny home for myself because I need shelter. It is work. I do. I've been, you know, I work a very labor-intensive job and sleeping out in the parks in the rain. You know, the rashes and the cuts and the bruises and everything that I have. It's hard to maintain that, so I need to get a roof over my head. But I'm using this tiny house as a symbol, as a marketing tool to the city.
Well, let's be clear, it's not built yet. So if you're thinking it's been built, it's not been built. He just kind of bought the foundation for it. There again, just like my show, for me to bring you this show, it takes money. He needs money too. You know, let me tell you, he's a man of action. I've had him on the show several times, and I wouldn't if he was just a bum. If he was, look, I have to kind of put some of the guys I interview in categories, right? I don't know what category I would put you in, because you're unlike so many, like I've never, dude, I mean, not only do you go to work and all this stuff and maintain and do all the things we talked about, but you've also helped several other people. Like, I mean, I think that's even prevented you from getting into a place.
I get yelled at a lot
because it's not your responsibility to make sure a family of 6, a husband, wife, and 4 kids are in a hotel. It's not your responsibility to make sure, you know, somebody's rent is paid at the campground. But you're like me, you can't walk away.
And I get it, you know, I get it. You know, you have to help yourself first before everybody else. But, you know, it's kind of the core of what Project Reform is, you know, we got to stop this it's how complicated is it? Let's stop this mentality of just like, well, you know, it costs so much money and this and that, and we make all these excuses to not do anything. You know, why not just jump over the edge and do it? And you know, I feel bad. Like, I feel bad. I see people out here that they can't. I'm going to admit, I think my resilience level is a little bit higher, which allows me to push through. And,
but if you get one injury, you break your arm, you break your leg, you have an open,
I'm screwed.
You really do need to take care of yourself before other things. So listen, this video is getting kind of long, but I want to touch on something else too. We talked about Chris dying, and that is the Chris Gomez is the National Sleep Out to support homelessness, and that is on Friday, November the 22nd, and it's coming up here. And I would very much like your inputs on Facebook and on YouTube. We're thinking like we would like to do it at Manzo. If you guys want to kind of start a talk, it's between Manzo and Sandpoint. We're not going anywhere else in Titusville, so I don't want people to go, oh, well, there's this, there's that. Those are the 2 parks that we're comfortable with, that I'm comfortable coming out, talk to some of the people. Demian will be there, wherever we kind of as a group decide to do it. And in no way is this supposed to be a cure or a fix books for homelessness. This is just mostly a gesture of support to say, I am not turning my head the other way. I see what's going on.
We just can't. We can't turn our head out.
And the kind of the rules for this is really you should bring no more than one pillow, a sleeping bag, and like a cardboard box to put your sleeping bag on top of on the ground.
I wouldn't even say a cardboard box.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want people showing up like with an RV.
You know what? You like the whole TV thing. No, the way it's done here in Titusville is just grab a couple clothes, throw it in a bag, and grab your book bag, and let's just go. I mean, that's how it's done.
Right.
I mean,
if you're one of the people that would like to experience it that way, by all means do that.
Listen, how many people are used to walking around with cardboard boxes and this and that? Let's do it like the realistic way. If you want to see what it's really like, you know, if you really want to see what it's like, you know, grab your bag and walk from wherever you're at. Get to the park. Get to wherever you have to go. You know, fill your bag up with as much stuff as you need. Take your hygiene. Take everything. See how much that thing weighs. Well, because it's only a day.
Right.
But if you really want to experience what it's like, because listen, I'm not out here for a day. I got to carry all my hygiene. You know, I carry clippers, blankets, clothes. You know, whatever. I have a laptop that I carry in a bag. Carry all that stuff and walk. You know, and see what it's like. If you really want to, if you want to just come out and show a little bit of support. Again, don't come with a cardboard box.
Right. Well, what it was is to put on the ground so it doesn't get the wetness doesn't get through.
Oh no! Listen,
let the wetness get. But there are going to be some people that can't handle that. But they're still
I'm going to send you some pictures to put in this video where, like 2 nights ago, when this front was coming in after I worked a 10-hour grueling day. Then came out here and it was raining.
I'm just telling you what the suggestions are on the national website. That's what kind of the national website is. I'm also going to try to get a permit for one of these. So I need somebody, you know, I really need your input this week on where I'd like, you know, you'd want me to get the permit, whether it's Manzo or Sandpoint or who knows, maybe one of them's out and the other one's in with the permit. I don't know. Maybe it's too short of a notice and we won't, and we'll it'll be very realistic and we'll get a little bit of police action with them asking, hey, what are you guys out here doing?
Yeah, you know what, and once again, you know, I get
that's the real being on the street.
And that's what I want. You know, I tried that with somebody. You know, somebody was willing to come do it. They were only able to hang out till 12 o'clock. Because they said
they tapped out.
And they tapped out. They tapped out, you know.
But you can't tap out. Even when you want to tap out, you can't tap out.
I'm tapping, but nobody's responding. So that's why Project Reform's coming in now, because I see that there's a lot of people out here, and just because they don't have the drive, like, you know, I do, doesn't mean that they're any less deserving.
Right,
you know,
right. Sometimes they're just defeated in their mind.
They have, exactly. I mean, they're lost. I've been there to the point where mentally, like, my depression is kicked in, and I'm like, you know, there's other people here that actually have physical disabilities. They need help.
They can't get a job like you.
Yeah, exactly.
They cannot do anything for themselves.
No, I mean, I got a job now laying brick, you know, and it's a very physically intensive job, but it's paying well. I just started. Finally, I got something, and there's folks out here that just can't do that, you know. They need help and they need to get attached to services.
There are little old ladies living out here on the street on Social Security.
Oh my God, you have no idea. A 61-year-old woman from Staten Island is, you know, sleeping on the streets under a bridge, you know. It's horrible. You know,
well, listen. We could go on and on and on, and I want you know, wrap this up. But is there anything real quick that we didn't touch on that you think we should real quick, or do we kind of cover it?
Well, I think we got everything for now. You know, I hope you guys really start following Project Reform and, you know, supports Keith's channel a little bit more. You know, we want to grow, we want to sit there and make change, but without community support, it's difficult.
That's how the world works on money.
It just does, you know. And we're not these big corporate, you know, just trying to sell endorsements. We actually really want to make change. I know I want to make change. I know Keith is not in this for the money, you know. I hope you don't mind I share that. Keith one time shared the back end of his YouTube because he wanted me to do some computer work on it, and I saw what's there. It's not what people think, man.
The money is not what people...
It's just not. It's not, you know. It's really not, guys. You know,
but I wish it were. I wish it were. I wish it were that easy, but it's not.
It's not. And it's not about the money for us. I think it's more about actually really making impact and change and leaving a legacy, you know, and helping other people. You know, there's families out here. There's kids out here. There's people in cars out here. You know, and if we don't do something, the government's doing whatever it is they want. You know, they're stealing our money. They're stealing the money that's meant for low-income housing.
Absolutely.
Wages are going up, our housing is going up, and wages aren't. I mean, it's a bad thing that's happening right now. So,
all right.
Project Reform.
Well, I'll put a link to that, and I'll also put a link to his GoFundMe and all that stuff. Listen, you guys can connect with me on Facebook at KEITHWOHR. You can also join the Homeless in Titusville Facebook page, where you can connect with Demian and some of the others that you've seen on my show. You guys can also leave me a comment on YouTube. I do look at and read all those comments. I can't get to them all. I just cannot respond to them all. But I do see them all. I do read them all. I do give them, you know, you guys took the time to write them, so I'm going to take the time to read them. You know, that's the least that I could do. So I just wanted you to know that, like, your comments do matter, you know, and I would hope that you guys would share these videos. You would think they're important enough to, you know, show your friends, show your family, put a link up on your personal Facebook page and say, hey, check this show out. And, you know, and like I said, you know, I hope my show isn't in danger of leaving because of equipment failures. Right, and I think that won't happen. I think that you guys do like this and you will support it, and I guess
they like it because they want to see a change. They're tired of, you know, people are getting tired of what they're seeing. They want to see a change, and the support system is out there. I think they're just scared. Yeah, I think in ways
it could be. So. It could be. All right. Well, I'll wrap up as always. May you be just as blessed as you have blessed others. Until next time, thanks for watching.